We could actually lose everything we believe in, everything we hold dear, when in the United States, we embrace the notions that we are systemically racist. That seems to be everybody seems to be agreeing with that. That social justice is preferable to justice, that we should tear down our historical monuments and markers, that our founding fathers need to be contextualized, if not entirely erased from our collective memory, that the police should be defunded, that wealth should be redistributed, that millions of homes should be retrofitted with green energy capacity for an oppressive ideological agenda that is masquerading as a cure for climate change. We have a serious problem in this country. When the largest, most respected newspaper in the country suggests that our founding was in 1619 as opposed to 1776, that our nation was premised on the perpetuation of human bondage, was premised, that was the point of our country, is what the New York Times is saying, was premised on the perpetuation of human bondage as opposed to being based on the most inspiring national creed ever put forth, then we are indeed in a national crisis. When the national news media ceases to become the fourth estate and becomes instead literally part of a political party, as do every single one of the biggest tech companies in this country, stunningly banning the publication of facts, literal facts, that do not fit their narrative, it's time to be frightened. And most concerning of all, when the left's decade-long attempt to silence their opposition by demonizing and shaming, by claiming that their opponents are not just wrong, but that they are evil, when that strategy begins to take root and begins to work, the fear of speaking up is almost palpable, and the cause is almost lost. But it's not.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So if I'm reading this bill correctly, this bill would allow someone to carry up to 500 lethal doses of fentanyl and only be convicted of a misdemeanor. Is that correct?
Mr. Speaker, I would suggest, especially to Delegate Obenshain, who is a prosecutor, that this bill would allow a prosecutor to make a charging decision that is commiserate to the offense. So in that case, I would not expect an elected prosecutor to pursue a misdemeanor.
Mr. Speaker, speaking to the bill.
The delegate has the floor.
I thank the delegate for attempting to explain away what her bill actually does, but the answer to my question is yes. This bill, if passed, would allow a drug dealer in possession of 500 or fewer lethal doses of fentanyl to be convicted of a misdemeanor offense. That means that someone with enough drugs to kill 500 Virginians, the number of people in this room 5 times over, would receive the same punishment, potentially, as someone who tosses a glass bottle on the highway or somebody who gets rowdy at a football game and is charged with disorderly conduct. That makes absolutely no sense. Mr. Speaker, as a prosecutor, I deal with these drugs day in and day out. They're having an absolutely devastating effect on our communities. Small amounts of dangerous drugs can still be incredibly harmful to our communities. This bill simply ignores that fact. Just because someone gets caught with a small amount of drugs doesn't mean that they haven't already used or distributed a whole lot more. This bill actually rewards dealers who get rid of their supply before getting caught. It would let them off the hook based only on the amount of drugs in their possession at the time of their arrest. What this bill does is to encourage and enable an ever-growing market of dangerous drugs in our communities. Mr. Speaker, fentanyl is the #1 killer in our Commonwealth right now. More than 5 Virginians are dying every single day from this horrific drug. These are our brothers and sisters, our parents, our friends, and our coworkers. Last year alone, 2,600 Virginians, more than 2,600 Virginians, lost their lives to this scourge. That is more Virginians killed by fentanyl than those killed by guns and auto accidents combined. This is a serious problem in our Commonwealth, Mr. Speaker, and it calls for serious solutions. This bill is the antithesis of that. If our colleagues across the aisle are truly interested in protecting children and keeping our communities safe, I urge them to join us in rejecting this bill.
Mr. President, I would urge members of the body to vote no. I think that every once in a while it's important to look at one of these programs, and it's interesting to look back at why it is or isn't working. And very often we look at programs that were instituted for very good reasons and reach the conclusion that it's not working because you stingy legislators were too parsimonious in the first place. If you'd only appropriated more money, if you'd only made the program bigger, it would have worked better. And Mr. President, I suggest that this is one of those same situations. I too have very serious concerns about the possibility of future reductions in federal funding. Mr. President, I believe, as do a vast majority of American taxpayers, that we are on a course that is unsustainable, that we have a level of current federal spending that cannot possibly be continued. And with that, it is simply pipe dream for us to believe that we're going to be able to count on the federal dollars indefinitely into the future. Mr. President, Medicaid already accounts for somewhere north of 30% of state spending, and we're talking about increasing it to even more. Mr. President, the expansion of Medicaid represented by this amendment is simply inconsistent with conservative free market principles, and I would urge its rejection.
Thank you, Senator.